Hey YouTube friends, I love growing potatoes. It's one of the earliest crops that you can get started in the early springtime. But it's also something that you can grow in the fall. And today I'm going to show you how to do it. So let's dig in. Have you ever grown fall potatoes? I'd love to hear from your experience. Since this is my first time really trying it, I'd like to know what tips you might offer to me and to our other viewers. Potatoes can handle cooler weather, and that's why they're one of the earliest crops that you put out in the springtime. You can even put them out a little bit before the first frost because they won't emerge from the ground for 2, 3, 4 weeks. So they'll be protected under the soil for a light frost. But they can also be grown in the fall. You plant them in the middle of the summer, then they will emerge and they will hold on until you get to that first frost. And you can harvest them out of the ground and have them over the winter as well. Potatoes are a great survival food or homesteading food because they provide the main nutrition in your diet. And if properly stored, potatoes can last for several months, meaning they can sustain you for a good portion of the year. And if you grow them in the spring, you'll have a spring harvest. And then if you grow them in the fall, you'll have a fall harvest to help you get through over the winter. And so if done properly, this can support you for pretty much the whole year. That's why potatoes were grown in places like Ireland and in South America by people who were using them as their main food to live off year-round. So growing potatoes in the spring and in the fall can have great benefits because it extends your harvest to be the main source of your food year-round. Now, I've only grown fall potatoes by accident. In the past, there would be times when one or two or a few potatoes were left unharvested in the springtime and remained in the soil, and then they would pop up throughout the year, and then they would be there as a fall harvest. But this year, I'm going to do it on purpose. I'm going to try to do it right and maximize my harvest. I've done a few videos on growing potatoes, grown them in buckets with great success, and I'll leave a link in the description for those videos so you can know how to grow it in containers. But I grew a lot of potatoes in the ground this spring, and man, it really is a great way to grow potatoes. It really increases your harvest with more potatoes and larger potatoes. And so that's the method that I'm going to use this fall as well. You'll want to start with seed potatoes, and this is perhaps the greatest obstacle for growing fall potatoes, at least in my area. It's really hard to find seed potatoes in the fall. Nurseries just aren't selling them. And I even talked to someone one time and they said, well, you don't grow potatoes in the fall, you grow them in the spring, so we don't have seed potatoes in the fall. But I knew that you can grow potatoes in the fall. But where do you get your seed potatoes? Well, normally I wouldn't recommend using potatoes from the stores, but in this case, it may be your best option. Start with good organic potatoes that you've gotten from the market. I say organic mainly because you want to be careful that there wasn't any kind of chemical that was sprayed on the potatoes that would hinder them sprouting. Many times grocery stores and food distributors do that with potatoes sold in the store because they don't want them to sprout eyes. But we need those eyes if we're going to plant those potatoes. For me this year, what happened just by chance was I went on a vacation with some of my family members, and my sister was there, and we both brought potatoes. Of course, I brought potatoes that I grew in my garden, and she brought some potatoes that she had bought at an organic market. Somewhere along the line, our potato supplies got switched, and when we came home from vacation, I had a sack of her potatoes. And these potatoes, as they were getting older, started to sprout eyes on them. And so I decided, I'm going to plant those potatoes. But you want to start with seed potatoes, and When I say they are growing eyes, what it means is the little dimples on the potatoes will start to sprout little baby potato plants. That's the main way that potatoes reproduce. Now, potatoes need to be planted deep. And so you want to dig out a trench that's 6 to 10 inches deep. Place your seed potatoes in the trench about a foot apart. Now for me, I'm using very small new potatoes that just have a couple of sprouts on each potato. If I was using larger potatoes with sprouts or eyes, I might want to cut those up into different sections because you can extend out your harvest. Each potato is going to have multiple eyes on it. And you don't want all of those sprouts to be compacted close together in your planting. So a way to avoid that is simply to cut the potato up into sections or segments and have 2 or 3 eyes on each segment. And then you can spread those out. That means the plants won't be competing against each other and will be able to grow larger potatoes and more of them. But you want to space your plants out about 12 inches apart in the row. And if you're doing multiple rows, you want the rows to be about 36 inches apart. That gives you enough space to walk down between the rows. Of course, if you're planting in a raised bed and you're doing square foot planting, you simply want them to be about 12 inches apart. Now, after you plant them, you want to hill your potatoes. That means you want to mound up the soil over the potatoes. They like to be deep. You see, the potatoes are all going to grow underground. And the more soil you have on top of them, the more space they have to produce those tubers that we eat, the potatoes. So you want to start out by mounding up over the potatoes. Now, you don't want to overdo it at the first hilling, because if you get it too deep, then the potato plants won't be able to emerge from the soil. Now, what you want to do is, as the potato plants emerge from the soil, you want to keep coming back and mounding up more and more dirt. Cover the plant up and just leave a little bit of the plant above the soil. Do that a couple of times throughout the growing season, which is going to take, for most potato varieties, between 90 to 110 days. Now, it's a good idea when you plant your potatoes to go ahead and add some bone meal fertilizer in with your potato seeds. Bone meal contains quite a bit of phosphorus, and phosphorus is the chemical that helps plants create great root systems. So we're going to put bone meal in with the potatoes, and that's going to offer a lot of phosphorus to the plants, which will help them grow more and bigger potatoes. I like to put in bone meal when I first plant the potatoes and then come back about halfway through and do it again. It's important when growing fall potatoes to make sure that you're giving them enough water. It's very hot outside, and unlike in the springtime when you grow potatoes, it's much cooler and they don't need as much water because there's less evaporation. But in the heat of the summer, those plants are going to dry out quicker. So you want to probably give them closer to 2 inches of water per week. And then as the season cools off toward the fall, you can cut back to about 1 inch a week. You'll know your plants are ready to harvest when they really start to die back, or simply because of the weather. As you approach that first frost, you want to get your potatoes out before they freeze. So make sure to watch the weather and the temperatures and harvest your potatoes before that frost hits. It takes a lot of faith to grow potatoes. It can take 2 to 4 weeks after you plant the seed potatoes for the potato plants to even emerge. And it's always a wonderful thing when you see those first green shoots of potato plants starting to come up out of the soil, and you know you're on the right track. It's confirmation that your hard work is beginning to pay off. But even after the green sprouts come up and the plants are growing big and tall, you still need a lot of faith, because you can't see what's happening under the soil. And that's where the potato tubers are growing. So even you can have beautiful plants and no potatoes under the soil. Or you can have puny plants and lots of potatoes under the soil. You just have to trust, and you just have to keep doing your gardening work until it's time to harvest, and then you find out if you've been successful or not. And that's a lot like our spiritual lives. It takes a lot of faith. Hebrews 11:1 says, "Faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It is the evidence of things we cannot see." There's a lot more to life than what we can see with our eyes. We cannot see God, and we cannot see all that is happening spiritually. But with faith, we can see that God is there, and spiritual things are happening all around us if we have faith to see it. And through faith, we can walk with God, and we can worship Him, and we can trust Him to take care of us. Hebrews 11:6 says, "And it is impossible to please God without faith. Anyone who wants to come to Him must believe that God exists, and that He rewards those who sincerely seek Him." Now, I cannot prove to you that God is with us and that He is good. Proof is just too strong a word. However, there's plenty of evidence all around us, especially in the garden. Just look at the way life grows and thrives and overcomes, and how it works so well together, with bees pollinating the flowers and worms tilling the soil and bacteria feeding the roots. All of these things working together in a beautiful system, not just by chance. It was all designed to work that way, to work together. It all points to a wonderful Creator who designed it all. And thousands of years of religious experience from devout people who thought deeply and lived their lives in pursuit of the Creator, collected in the Holy Bible, point us to Jesus Christ, the Lord and Savior of the world. I cannot prove it to you, but the evidence is there. And with a little faith, you can come to God and you can connect to the source of life. The same things that make the garden grow and the bees and the butterflies and the birds survive is the same thing that can help us to thrive, not just physically, but spiritually as well. So I want to encourage you to have a little faith as you grow your potatoes, and have a little faith in your life too. God loves you and He wants a relationship with you. So have a little faith and get out there and grow and be fruitful.